Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the prince of the night and got harem? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Naruto and Moxie decided to listen to some music on their individual iPods, letting the mother and son talk leisurely. The duo guessed that they wanted to talk more and discuss everything Percy had been doing in the last couple of months. Every now and then, Naruto would glance back to check on them both to see how they were holding up. So far we haven't encountered any obstacles on our way, the blonde thought as his senses had yet to pick up on any potential danger. But it didn't mean he would let his guard down and relax. The blonde Jinchuriki had changed, and not just physically. He felt a bit more at peace in this world than back in the elemental nations. So much so that he dropped his mask of ignorance, allowing him to be his true self, which he had only done in the presence of Lilith and her girls and anyone who he considered precious to him. But then again, he didn't have people hunting him down, calling out for his death, and glaring at him with hate and disgust. Naruto could only imagine the surprised looks from anyone who didn't know about his masks, his personas. Heck, they would probably think he's an imposter and ask what he did with the real Naruto they all knew. All he would tell them was that Naruto did not exist in the first place, and all of it was an act of his, conjured up to fool anyone, to make them think that he was weak, so they would drop their guard. Deception is, after all, the bread and butter of every shinobi in Kunoichi, not flashy jutsu and moves. Something that seems to have been lost on the current generation of his back in the elemental nations as more and more shinobi in Kunoichi favored flashy. Perhaps the only person that agreed with Naruto was her. She understood the value of deception, the value of fooling your opponent, the value of using key strategies to finishing a mission or an opponent off, not just brute strength. Which is another reason the blonde fell in love her, aside from her bonus traits, such as her simple yet elegant beauty. There is beauty in simplicity, and she made it natural and, at the same time, difficult to obtain. It was something that first captivated Naruto. So much so that he thought she was an angel of sorts, hence his nickname for her, Tenchi-Hime, when he first met her under the mist-filled morning. Her face and gentle smile made his heart stop for just a second, making him think he died, and she was here to take though him he was glad it wasn't his time. When he first heard her speak, it was soft, innocent, and melodic. Something that most women he knew couldn't pull off, but she made it easy. It was like second nature to her. One of my fondest memories of her, he thought, both in joy and sadness. He felt sadness because he couldn't see her and could hear her voice only in his bitter dreams. "Sally, we are nearing Montauk, point me to where the cabin is," Naruto said. Percy's mom nodded and directed Naruto to a wooden cabin that was located right on the beach. The cabin looked a little old, but seemed to be in decent condition. The beach itself was very beautiful, from its white sands to clear blue ocean, and that sense of serenity. Naruto and Moxie could understand why Percy and Sally loved the place so much. "Sally, I'll have my clone carry the bags. Why don't you and Percy go and enjoy yourselves for a little while," Naruto said, knowing that this peace and quiet wouldn't last for very long. He wanted both of them to enjoy themselves before things go downhill. "I insist and I'll pay for the expenses," Naruto pressed as Sally was about to protest. "Drop it, Sally. Naruto is one of the most stubborn people I know, though his stubbornness is a trait all men seem to carry, even more so than us females," Moxie said with a small teasing smile on her face, as Naruto simply rolled his eyes. "Besides I and, I'm sure, Grover here, want to explore this place. So would you kindly show me around?" Sally nodded and handed the key to the cabin to Naruto and gave a tour to Moxie and Grover. "You sense it, my lord?" Elysium's voice rang out from their connection. The blonde mentally nodded, feeling the lingering energy that surrounded the place. "Yes, it would seem that this is the place where both Sally and Percy's father met, and if my hunch is correct, then my sea-green-eyed friend is going to be involved in a lot of trouble." Naruto read up everything in regards to the Greeks, such as the gods and goddesses, the titans, and the beings before them, all to find out who his mother is. "Did you guess who Percy's father is, my lord?" Inferno asked with a smirk on his flaming face. Both him and his sister know how sharp their master is and how easily he could perceive things. This just made their blonde master much more dangerous, since he could easily figure out any plans against him or if people are trying to deceive him. "Yes, from what I gathered from observing Sally Jackson, this place holds more significance to her than just Percy. This place is where she met Percy's father, and the lingering energy we felt surfaced from the water. The energy itself is similar to Percy." Naruto's mind was putting all the small puzzle pieces together, completing that mystery of who Percy's father was. His piercing cerulean blue eyes stared at his green-eyed friend. "Percy's father is Poseidon, god of the sea, storms, earthquakes, droughts, floods and horses," he finished. The blonde's mind raced at the possible enemies they'll encounter, places they could use as safe houses, and how much danger they are in. "The only place that would be safe is the camp that Chiron told me about." The question is, would we make it? No, I'm positive we will. I'll make sure of it. Naruto swore. And we'll be here to help with that, my lord. Both sentient spirits said dutifully, loyalty burning in their voices. It seems things are finally moving forward, the nine-tailed demoness thought. She could only imagine the battles her container would face. Oh, just imagining the blood that Naruto-kun would spill is making me horny. I wonder though, would he use it? Kurumi hummed and thought of seeing that technique of her destined mate, making her shudder in anticipation. It was one of the techniques Naruto developed during his training with Inferno, Elysium, and herself back in the elemental nations. It was a combination of the three energy, her Imki, Elysium and Inferno's energy, combined with his own unique chakra. But he has yet to fully master said technique. It wasn't because Naruto wasn't training and mastering that technique. There are several factors preventing him from doing so. One of those factors is the energy. Kurumi's yin Imki or chakra has yet to be fully restored, creating an imbalance between the three energies, since the technique requires a level of balance between his and their energy. Though he could use the technique, he can't use it to its full potential, making it incomplete from the desired result. And in addition to that problem, he wants to master using my Imki. Sigh, I love him, I really do. But sometimes he can be annoying, surprising considering how level-headed and calm he is. That was the other reason. Due to his condition, ADHD, her blonde would not take time to master just one technique. No, he prefers mastering almost all the techniques at his disposal. Sure, he has shadow clones, but he would sometimes forget the value in the term one step at a time. Yet it hasn't become a problem for him, considering how perceptive he is to every little detail, such as in the bedroom. The nine-tailed muse recalled her many activities with him, causing her to drool slightly. In a way this was good, not the sex part, but his perception. It helps him in mastering multiple things at once, and this allows him to see or check every detail about the technique he's trying to master, such as its weaknesses, strengths, effectiveness, damage, advantages, disadvantages, ups, and its downs. An example was when he developed one of his strongest jutsu. Theften. Rasen Shuriken Wind Release. Spiraling Shuriken, a devastating technique that damages anyone who is unfortunate enough to get caught in it. The technique creates countless microscopic wind blades that severely damage the body on a cellular level. The wind blades sever all nerve channels in the body, leaving the target unable to move after being struck. The damage cannot be repaired by any form of healing technique whatsoever. The technique is an all-range technique after Naruto trained with it, making it a devastating technique on the battlefield as it covers all ranges, hard to dodge, since it can expand rapidly ensuring the target does not escape. The technique can also be used with his other elemental affinity for multiple usage and combos. But the disadvantage of the technique, it required a great deal of chakra to perform, and the limit in performing the technique using his own chakra can leave Naruto extremely fatigued. It requires a good deal more chakra to both create and then throw it, and the technique damages his arm. So the technique is one of the main technique he's trying to fully master and remove any sort of drawbacks. Well, if can master that, then maybe he can remove some of its drawback, and it could help him master my Imki. Kurumi thought, before closing her eyes for a beauty nap. Hey, she knows she's drop-dead gorgeous and sexy, but there is a lot of difficulty in maintaining such appearance. So a nap here and there helps a lot. After Naruto paid for the use of the cabin, he observed as Moxie and Sally were chatting, while Percy was on the offside and seems to be in deep thought. That's not good, he thought before walking towards his friend. Any for your thought, Naruto asked from behind, surprising the sea green-eyed teen. Don't do that, he said, a little annoyed and peeved. Sorry, but I couldn't help but notice you were in deep thought. What is it? What's bothering you, Percy Jackson? Of course Naruto knew what it could be, but he wanted Percy to tell him himself, since this would tell if he trusts him or not. You know what's bothering me? Don't act that you don't know, the black-haired teen snapped at the blonde-haired Jinchuriki, who remained calm as always. It's impossible. You of all people, what am I saying? Percy suddenly let out a hollow chuckle. You're Naruto Uzumaki, someone who isn't bothered by everything. Naruto could see the stress that Percy built up over the month is finally surfacing itself, and he noticed how the water is reacting to his emotional distress. The guy that everyone respected and feared, the guy who everyone looked up to and envied. Why, I thought you would be bothered or even feel slightly frustrated, scared. Or even stress is beyond me, Percy added bitterly. He considered the blonde his friend, but back then when he didn't know anything about Naruto or even interacted with him, Percy, like everyone else, was jealous of Naruto. Everything seemed to come easy for him, from his grades to his standing with the staff and students of the school. Heck, everyone even made a pedestal of Naruto to compare on how they measured up to him, which sadly no one could even come close to half. Naruto possesses what everyone wanted: money, adoration, respect, smarts, looks, and a gorgeous and loving girlfriend. And he made it out like it was nothing or it was insignificant to him, like it was expected or something. Of course the blonde didn't know, or maybe he did and didn't bother to care about that fact. It was as if some sadistic being sent the blonde just to mock them about their statues or lack thereof, and Percy hated him for that, but after getting to know the blonde he knew he couldn't, how could he? But Naruto wasn't even from their world, this was any other day for a shinobi dealing with life and death situation, or even dealing with something simple as school and a social life. Percy, don't sell yourself short or even think of comparing yourself to me. You're you and I am me, everyone is unique in their own way, and comparing yourself to anyone is showing how weak and pathetic you are. Naruto started calmly, he didn't need to have mind-reading powers to know what Percy was saying, he knew how the sea green eye felt about him and everyone else at school. Take for example those people who follow the trend of today. Those people who try to change their appearance to be accepted or even acknowledged, to make themselves beautiful or handsome as society deems it. For me they are all pathetic or simple low. For me beauty is what is inside you and who you are. If you can't accept yourself then you can never be beautiful or handsome. To find something that fits perfectly for society when you can't even fit in yourselves is a shallow notion. So Percy, don't try to compare yourself to me, you're you and I am me, we are both different and unique. You may have qualities that I don't, unique to only you, and same goes for me, no matter how small or large it is still something that you have and only will have. He finished. Add, what do I have that you don't? Percy asks, confused on what does he has that the blonde doesn't have, because it seems he has everything that everyone wanted. The mother, a true mother. Percy, I never knew my mother, only the nightmare of the memory when I saw both her and my father of them killed when I was an infant and newborn. Percy was shocked by that statement. Naruto smiled sadly. Yes, my first memory of my parent was them being impaled and their loving words as they slowly die. At first I thought it was some kind of genjutsu or even a nightmare, but the longer I thought about it, how could anyone conjure up something like that? Or how could I imagine something like that? It wasn't after and even that I found out that it wasn't a nightmare or even a genjutsu as I hope, but a memory of when I was an infant. This is why I consider my photographic memory both a blessing and a curse, as it records everything, even things I wish to forget, he said. His facial expression and voice sounded emotionless, hollowed, and dejected. I'm sorry, Percy said, looking down in shame for his insensitivity. Naruto shook his head. Don't apologize. 1. You didn't know, 2. I stated the facts, and 3. It was my choice to tell you, he simply said. Now Percy, listen to what I have to say. Okay, said Teen nodded. I know you feel stress, everything that has happened within just a few months been a hell of a ride. First with Miss Dodds, second finding out about my ability, third us being chased down by something unknown. It's all stressful, and any sane person would be stressed, but I need you to calm down, Percy, and be strong, not for me or for you, but for your mother. I know that you think she's isn't all bothered by this, in truth she's just putting on a brave face for you, she is scared out of her mind, and I can sense that. So take in some air, calm your raging heart, and give your mom a reassuring hug. Got it? Percy nodded and did as instructed, inhaling and exhaling. The black-haired teen felt himself calming down, especially this close to the water. He felt a peach and the raging storm inside of him calm down. Percy promptly stood up and made his way towards his mother. Once he reached her, the sea green-eyed teen pulled his mother into a hug. Naruto smiled and saw his partner walk up to him. So you talked to him or something, she asks, knowing the answer already. I assume you did too, after all when it comes to people you're the best at handling them, Moxie said as Moxie sat beside him and lay her head on his shoulder. Well, I figure she needed help with everything that has happened to her in the last few hours, she said, revealing in her secret love's warmth. Like Naruto, she too had a moment, as she put it, with Sally Jackson, who kept up a brave face. Which honestly impresses the brown-haired sadist, since most women these days were some of the reason why men looks down upon her gender. One example, fangirls. So Moxie decided to help the mother out by talking with Brunette. So where is Grover? Naruto asked, curious to where the Percy's guardian sat her. Probably being a hippie and dry humping a 3 or something is her reply, which translates to he's taking a look around the forest for a possible escape route or make sure we weren't followed. This was Moxie's way of making sure anyone who would try to eavesdrop confuse and her own code's language or cipher, and the only Naruto could translate and understand her coded messages or words, since she taught him. Naruto didn't understand how or even why she considers it a form of coded message or a cipher, but he didn't question her thought processes. If he tried he would gain a monumental headache. Women are confusing like that and will forever be an eternal mystery. I'll have some shadow clones place an alarm seal and a trap seal and have them call Grover back since it's almost nighttime and dinner approaches. I'll prepare our meal. Moxie licked her lip, not in lust, but in anticipation of Naruto's cooking, which is surprising considering most guys don't cook. Only a few that did not have ulterior motives as to why they learned how to cook in the first place. While Naruto was preparing dinner, Sally and Percy were enjoying a long overdue mother and son bonding time, Moxie relaxing, wearing a red one-piece bikini with a rather revealing cleavage hole, and Grover was taking a nap leaning on a large 3. Well, at least they aren't tense, the blonde thought. Being tense in the battlefield or on a mission would spell disaster, as it would hinder the thought process. Sure, it puts you on guard, but a calm mind can easily weather down any storms, and it helps to think straight during life and death situation. So for Naruto, being tense was something he is against and would rather have his allies be relaxed, but not too relaxed and ready. Naruto's mind began to drift off a bit, something that has been recurring for the past week, to a specific even during his first 3 months in this new world. The blonde brushed it off as a failed experiment of a jutsu he was working on, believing that it was a dream, considering how tired he was after training, with his stamina that is saying something. The jutsu was simple. He tried to separate his subconscious from his body. It is similar to the Yamanaka clan Shintention no Jutsu, mind-body switch technique. A jutsu was that original use for intelligence gathering. This would allow the user to spy on the target's mind, allowing him or her to learn everything the target knows and control their body for a short period of time, but the downside is that it would leave their body defenseless and open for attack. Luckily for Naruto, he didn't have to worry about his mind and body from being taken over or Jack, since his inside companion wouldn't allow it, especially Elysium, since she is very protective of the bond wielder. The jutsu would allow Naruto in the even he is somehow captured and lead a search team, most likely Moxie, to find his body using the connection to his mind. It came as an inspiration he has on a movie he watched. Sad part is he couldn't recall if it was a movie or the title of it. He tried to, but instead he got this weird dream. Well, maybe it wasn't weird, considering the dream had its pleasant moments, but it was weird that his mind could conjure up such events and people. But now he wonder if it was more than just a dream. If it is not a dream, and I somehow managed to pull off something impossible, then I hope they are alive, especially the young one he hope. Naruto was rather fond of the little one, going so far as considering her as his little sister in all but blood, and was the only one who saw his now true form, which happened after he regained the other half of Kurumi's Imki chakra. Kurumi said it was a side effect from her Imki entering his body. The blonde was first felt weird, but quickly shook it off considering the benefits. Increased strength, reflexes, chakra, and stamina, plus it made you much more desirable, hot, and sexy. QP's voice suddenly rang out. I thought I cut the connection off, Naruto mentally questioned. You did, but I decided to link it. Now back to the topic of your true form. Before it could go any further, Naruto decided to cut the link as he knew where this was heading, since on that day when he gained his new, body, it was the day he lost his virginity, mentally anyways. Kusumi has manipulated his emotions since he wasn't used to his new body, which lead him to pounce her and ravage her senseless. Good time, and that was rude of you to cut me off, Naruto-kun. The Nine Tails whined with a cute sexy pout on her face. How he knew, cause he could easily see her doing that. Also, it wasn't like you didn't enjoy it, you beast, she purred out in a sultry tone, recalling that event when both of them rutted like bunnies in the heat. Heck, she didn't have to give Naruto any sort of pointers, as his instinct seemed to guide him every step of the way. How you run through me so thoroughly, like you've been ninjit for years. Must be because you were raised in the brothel, and by the owner herself. Yufu, she giggled on the last part and really did wonder if Lilith gave Naruto some tip and advice on how to properly pleasure a woman. At the blonde silence, Kurumi began to laugh out loud. So she did, didn't she? Haha. Well, if we ever get the chance to meet her again, and when I'm out of the seal, I'll thank her for making you such an expert, she said. It was when his adopted mother, Lilith, decided to give him the talk, which is one of the most dreaded experience of his young life, and followed by her lesson on seduction and pleasure, such as how to resist and how to seduce, the pleasure points in the human body, specifically women, and the reason why it is important for him to learn that topic. One, so he could resist being seduced into being captured, since almost all information gathering or assassination involved seducing your target to lower their guard, which majority of those targets were males. Second, so he could turn it around on his would-be seductress and make her putty in his hand while getting information out of her. And third, so he could satisfy his girlfriends or wives. Such as the life of a ninja and how their world was. It wasn't much of a hot topic for Kunoichi, since they still have their pride as woman, but a mission is mission, and they are duty-bound to do so. But Naruto would never take advantage of any woman, enemy or not. He would just have them flustered enough to be distracted and knock them out. Well, that aside, it could be a possibility that you may have done just it. You do realize what you're implying, correct? Plus, I don't know if it was an actuality or something that my mind came up with. It is not a question if it was real or not, Naruto-kun, it is a question on how much you recall. And be honest, Naruto-kun, do you really think something weird as that is not possible? Considering your luck, it could be real, and you did manage to pull off something no one in your original world has ever done. Point, and admittedly bits and pieces only, considering the memory time lapse. Yes, considering how far your subconscious went, it would be surprising if you managed to retain all of it. But my theory is that it is the same with dreams. You can't recall how a dream starts, you just starts and all the details of the dream. It's possible, though why do I recall her, the little one, more? Simple, she's the most important part of the memory, same with dreams, since the only part of the dream anyone can recall or remember is the important parts of the dream itself, and from your memories the two of you did bond. On another note, at least you managed to get the hang in using your yun release or darkness release, a jutsu that governs the imagination and illusion. I hope so, was all Naruto said before dismissing her in favor of cooking grilled steak, basil oregano T-bone steaks, squash and barley salad with balsamic vinaigrette for Grover, since Naruto could tell the Caucasian teen is a vegetarian. Taking the necessary ingredients from his food storage scroll, Naruto expertly work on both dishes, all the while keeping his sense sharp and his guard up just in case the traps should give us enough time to make an escape, he thought. The smell of Naruto's cooking quickly attracted their attention instantly. "That smell great," Foxy Moxie complimented while putting on some black skinny jeans and a jacket. The other nodded in agreement with the brown-haired beauty, making the blonde slightly chuckle, which was the first for both Grover and Percy, knowing how serious the blonde is all the time, so they were surprised when they heard him chuckle, much less see a small smile on his otherwise serious, calculative, and intimidating face. "Why, thank you, Moxie. Beer, basil oregano T-bone steak for the three of you and a squash and barley salad with balsamic vinaigrette for Grover, enjoy," Naruto said, handing them out their meal, while he finish up and cooking some fries and his favorite meal, ramen. Let it be known that before any other meal ramen always comes first, and those who wonder why the blonde has an obsession and addiction to ramen being his first real actual and non-poison food. Naruto summoned another set of clones to act as guards and patrol the area, ordering them to dispel at the first sign of trouble and set up a few more traps around strategic location he anticipate the enemy, no matter how dumb, would enter. All the while securing a quick exit route that would get them enough time to make some distance towards the camp. Planning for any kind of scenario, no matter how small or distance it is, should always be planned down to a T and ahead of time. It's good to anticipate your opponent's movements or the moves they make, that's a sound plan, but predicting your opponent's moves or movements before they even make it, now that's a plan. It is the reason why Naruto hasn't lost a single fight. Sure, learning from your losses is a good thing, depending on who you ask, but in life and death situation, there can be no room for error. Heck, dropping your guard for just a second could and can be fatal. The blonde learned that when he trusted someone before he met Lilith and got branded with a branding iron. Naruto considered that a loss since he allowed himself to be fooled, and it cost him another birthday and another part of his psyche. Heck, if it wasn't for him meeting Lilith, he's sure he would have gone insane and ripped the seal off, or planted enough explosive around the village to fully level the place. He didn't know where he got his murderous tendencies from. "This place is quite nice," Naruto started before slurping down on some of his ramen while sitting down in front of a warm campfire that the blonde made. Sally nodded to this. "Yes, it quite is," she said fondly with a reminiscing smile. "I'm guessing this is where you meet Percy's dad," the blonde continued, and Sally nodded, flashes of memories of the time when she first met her son's father, causing her smile to grow and a hint of pink to appear on her cheeks, though Percy had a distant look on his face, and the blonde could tell what he was thinking of. "Aside from that, I can see why you two like coming here. The beach area, a nice view of the ocean, a warm and relaxing breeze perfect for warming up some marshmallows over a campfire. Sounds perfect if you ask me," Naruto added, pointing out the things that made this place wonderful for the two Jacksons. Both mother and son smiled at Naruto's words. "Yeah, this place has that certain effect, better than most places we hunkered down," Naruto Moxie said before taking a bite of her food. Her partner nodded with a slight chuckle. "If I can ask, what do the two of you do exactly?" Sally asks. "We're mercenaries, in a sense, but unlike your typical mercenaries, we take up mission called contracts ranging from espionage, assassination, support, escort, retrieval, rescue, etc. Our clients or contractors are people from the government, foreign or state, and anyone with enough money to set up a contract. The team is made up of 5 members not counting the handler, which is yours truly, with specific set of skills called specialists such as medic, combat, strategist, range, and engineering. But Foxy here is a jack of all trade, and myself included, making up a 2-member team," Moxie explained in the most simplest of terms so they could understand. "But ain't that dangerous with just the two of you?" Sally said with genuine concern for the two. It was frustrating at times, well was being the word, until I discovered Naruto here is every girl's wet dream come true, i.e. he can make solid clones of himself, like the one standing guard and patrolling the area right now. Moxie pointed to one of the nearby tree, and the branch of said tree was a Naruto clone standing guard. The three, Sally, Grover, and Percy, blush at Moxie's implication, more so with Sally having read a certain orange book that she would never admit that she has, or that it was tucked away in her bag. "Ah, my very own one-man harem fufu," Moxie giggled out with a slight roll going down her lip before wiping it away. Naruto shook his head at his partner's antics. "It was on one particular mission that I had to reveal my ability to Moxie. You see, our contractor decided to pull a fast one on us and tried to kill us for some rare diamonds," he said nonchalantly. The blonde didn't want to go into details about his professional life or work. I won't go into details about the mission. It was supposed to be a simple supply retrieval mission of illegal drugs, and the company did check out clean, but the guy who hired us wasn't. Long story short, we found the supposed drugs, which turns out to be diamonds that would catch a hefty price at the black market. Our client tried to kill us with a haze of bullets, me using Endoten Jutsu or Earth Release technique to block all the bullets, and use said Jutsu to create Earth Spears, impale our former client and his goons to the wall. He finished another set of raiment. Sally, Percy, and Grover blink and even check their eyes to make sure they weren't seeing things, since there were 10 empty bowls. How? Percy asks in disbelief. How what, Percy? How could you finish 10 bowls of ramen while you were talking? There must be something wrong with your eyes, since I've already finished my 12th bowl of ramen. Indeed, there were an additional 2 empty bowls. It seems at the time when all 3 of them blinked and cleared their eyes, the blonde somehow finished his ramen, making them wonder just what kind of stomach does the blonde have. I suggest you 3 stop thinking about it before you have a massive headache. Just file this on the many odd things Naruto here does, Moxie said, deciding to save them the trouble and the headache. She should know it happened to her when she decided to treat her blonde partner to his favorite meal. Let's just say her purse suffered greatly because of that, and even with the security cams weren't able to capture just how Naruto finished 3 bowls of ramen in a blink of an eye, literally in a blink of an eye. Ah, the ramen trick never gets old, the 9-tailed demoness voice rang out. Trick? Kurumi, I have no idea what you're talking about. I would never desecrate the sacredness of ramen, which such childish things. Naruto shoot back vehemently. Forgive me, Naru-kun, for my words against your sacred food, said, masking the sarcasm in her voice, though if Naruto could look into his mindscape, he would have seen an amused smile on her face. You are forgiven then, just make sure it does not happen again, he said before cutting their mental link. What people didn't know is Naruto discreetly place a gain jutsu that would disorient a person's sense of time, from the time a person's blink to the time they reopen their eyelids. This also works even if people would stare at him. The gain jutsu would cause them to blink, for what appear to be a second, is actually a minute. The blonde was inspired to create this gain jutsu from a movie he watched titled Inception. Inside Naruto mindscape, Kurumi has a smirk on her face. Cuckoo, deceitful as a fox. Good, Naru-kun, very good, she said with an evil glint in her eyes, before noticing the glare being sent her way by Elysium. For you say anything, you virgin prude. Deceiving and misdirecting your opponent is a vital component in making any competent plans and in the battlefield, she smirked as her statement shut the blonde up. Inferno sighs relieved that he didn't have to go through another argument between the 2 ladies. Seriously, you would think they were twins or something with how much the 2 argued on a daily basis. It would always involve their master, and he would always try to break them up, the word try. The 2 would either blast him or flat out ignore him. I wonder if there are 2 people who argues as much as these 2 somewhere. And raven black, sometimes auburn-haired woman with silver eyes and a blonde with bright blue eyes sneeze. Causing the lateral to spill his drink on a black-haired beauty, wearing a strapless dress, causing her to slap him before storming out, and the former to miss her target. Someone must be talking about me, they thought in oblivious unison. Must be some hot babe talking about me, the blonde thought with a grin on his face. Must be my idiot brother, which reminds me I never did get him back from almost seducing one of my hunters. Turning him into a pincushion should be an appropriate punishment. Staring with his jewel area, the silvered-eyed woman thought. Back with Naruto and the group, the blonde has his eyes slightly narrow at his black-haired friend when he asks about his father. It had to happen sooner or later, both Moxie and Naruto thought. Moxie being an accomplished psychologist and Naruto being able to sense emotion and could read people like an open book, they've anticipated something like this to happen. He was kind, tall, handsome, and powerful. But he very gentle and humble too. You have his beautiful green eyes and his hair along with some of his traits. I really wish he could have seen you. I'm sure he would be so proud, she answered fondly, recalling her godly, literally, lover with a loving smile on her face. How old was I when he left? Percy asked, pushing for more answers. He needed to know when his father left him. Sally bit down on her lips and her expression turned to one of sadness. He was only with me for 1 summer, Percy. It was right here when we spent our time together, something that I will always cherish, she said, this time with a sad smile. But he knew me as a baby, right? He asks in a hopeful tone. Sally sadly shook her head. No, honey. He knew I was expecting a baby, but he never saw you. He had to leave before you were born. Percy was about to ask what was so important for him to abruptly leave like that, or he would have resorted in saying his father just didn't want to take responsibility for knocking up his mom. But a calming feeling washed over him like a tidal wave and a hand was on his shoulder. The sea green-eyed teen turned his head to his right side and saw Naruto. Percy, it could be very well be what you are thinking of, that he didn't want to take responsibility, or there could have been a reason for him to leave, but don't dwell on that, wise, and remember you have a very loving mother. Who went the extra mile to protect you and shield you from monsters by marrying a scum. Besides it's his loss for missing out on getting to know a good person like you. My friend Percy nodded, feeling his anger and hatred vanish under the calming feeling he felt and by his blonde friend's words. Sally smiled and silently thanks the bond for being her son's friend. How about you, Naruto? What was your parents like, she asks, wanting to know more about her son's friend. I never knew my parents since I was an orphan, he said, his voice void of any sort of emotion. Was meaning someone adopted you, right? Yes and no. His answer left the three of them, since they didn't know about his past, confused. Yes, in a sense I was adopted. No, since I wasn't properly adopted considering the caretaker kicked me out when I was 5 years old, he said in a cold icy tone, making them shiver. I'm sorry for bringing up such bad memories. Naruto shook his head. It's fine, you didn't know, and I know you wanted to know more about your friend's son, he said in a soft tone. Still. And I'll say it again, it's fine. Besides, it just made me recall the time when I met my adopted mother Lilith, he said while tending to the flame, making Grover think back on how similar it was to a young girl, stoking next to the camp's own hearth and tending to it. He saw that one time she taught me how to read, write, proper etiquette, and educate me. That other people they would be surprised considering her profession, he said. Which is, Percy asks in curiosity. She's the owner of a well-known brothel, strip clubs, and other business around the red light district where I grew up. Naruto further explained Lilith's personality and his interaction with her girls and the people of the red light. It seems you can't really judge a book by its cover, Sally, Percy, and Grover thought, oblivious that the other was thinking of the same thing. Well, I'm for one am glad that you were surrounded by such pleasant people, despite their profession, Sally said with a nod of approval. Percy nodded as well. He wasn't really the overly judging type, preferring to judge a person by their action and personality instead of their appearance or what other people thinks of them. I'm happy for you, Naruto, he said along with Grover. The two look at each other before laughing slightly, both happy that their friend lived a good life. Naruto smiled a bit, but it masked a pained memory that he recalled prior before meeting Lilith. No, I do not want to trouble them with my past, he thought firmly. How about you, Moxie? Sally asks her fellow brunette. Well, nothing much, grew up in the southern farmland. My dad was the town mayor and he was too busy with his work to even notice me. Hell, the only time he did is when I did something illegal. Shows what he knows, Moxie said, mumbling at the last part with venom. Naruto, who knew about her past, placed his arm around her, bringing her close to him. Thanks, sugar, she said, while snuggling close to him. As I was saying, my dad wasn't what you called an honest man. His operation and dealings, you can compare it to the mafia. If he can't get you with his looks or money, he'll get you in another way. You can imagine just how he got to be a mayor. So when I did something that would put him in a bad light or would somehow expose his illegal operation, he would either hit me or lock me in my room. I grew tired of it, and when the opportunity came for me to escape, I ran with little money he gave me or what I've stolen. She started losing a bit of control over her emotion as she visibly clenched her fist to a point that her nails nearly dug into her skin. Nearly, if it wasn't for her blonde crush. I arrived here at New York City and I was almost out of cash. So I got a gig being an announcer for an underground fight club here in New York and on occasion got my hands a little dirty, but hey, you got to do whatever it takes to survive. Though I was never without help. As crazy as it sounds, I would hear this faint voice in my head guiding me to certain people who would be useful for my survival. Harsh as it sounds, you don't survive or live another day without getting your hands dirty. She stopped to see their reaction. When she saw they weren't negatively judging her, she continued. I got involved with certain men who knew their way around, did something that I wasn't proud of, but I won't deny I did it to survive or at least live to see the sun rise. They helped me, or rather taught me the tools of the trade, so to speak. I've learned certain skills that would otherwise been deemed illegal by today's standards, but I also learned some legal skills. Such as mechanics, computer programming, psychology. Yes, being able to read a person is a very useful skill, and I did actually graduate at top of my class, in fact at Harvard University, and law same school. But as I went on I got bored, I mean all this skill and no fun way to apply it. It wasn't until I overheard some random group talk about the contract, it caught my interest, so I tracked down to where this contract mission are being handed out and grabbed an associate of mine and accepted a D-grade job. At first it was fun, but it soon turned boring, and my ex-partner was against taking high-risk mission and storm out on me. I was stumped until Sugar here walked in on me and overheard about our discussion. He showed me a bit of his skills and long story short, he and I been partners ever since Moxie finished. Though left some parts out since she has yet to trust the three of them, unlike how she trusts Naruto. I won't judge my son's friend since I would have done the same if it would ensure that my son would live, and you helped me, Moxie, so if you need a female friend, then I'm here for you, Sally said. Moxie smiled and nodded towards her fellow brunette. Same with me and Grover. That's right, if you need a friend we're here for you. Thanks, she said to her two new friends. They chatted until it was night time, and at the end of it, Percy asked if Sally what are they were going to do about school since Percy would need to find a new school. Naruto, Moxie, and Grover silently excused themselves to give the two privacy, knowing this is between the mother and son me, and Moxie will take first watch, and even if either or both of us doze off, somehow, my clones would only need to dispel to alert me at the first sign of trouble. Grover, you stay close to Percy and his mom, since it is your job. Grover nodded following the blonde's orders. Naruto leaned up against a tree and felt himself at peace underneath the moon's gaze and the darkness around him. Most people would choose to remain in the light, to bask under the sun's rays and the warmth it provide, but not for me. I prefer the moon over the sun. I prefer the cool, relaxing, and tranquility it provides me under the cover of darkness. The darkness, it is where I thrive in, it is where I'm at my most dangerous. Besides, you can't stare at the sun without losing your eyesight as opposed to the modesty of the moon. You can truly admire the simple yet elegance of the moon's beauty, he thought to himself. It may have been strange to others, but not for Naruto. For him the darkness was like his blanket that provided him warmth and comfort while the moon was his guardian, lighting a path for him in his time of need. Let's say a mob was after him, he couldn't hide or escape during the day, since they would easily spot him, unlike when it was at night when the moon would provide little to no light at all. Naruto can use the moon as a guide to find a hiding spot, and the darkness would obscure where he was hiding. That and the fact that shinobis and kunoichi operate within the shadows and in darkness to accomplish their mission such as espionage, stealth, or assassination. Not that he disliked the sun or anything like that, he just found it somewhat annoying at times is all. What are you thinking about? Naruto, hearing his partner's voice, snaps him out of his thought and turned to meet her gaze. Nothing, just admiring the moon and relaxing under the blanket of the night, he simply said, getting a giggle from the brown-haired beauty. I should have known, knowing you, if I hadn't snapped you out of it, you would have stared at the moon till it sets, she said, teases. Maybe, but clones would snap me out, Naruto replied. The moment of silence befell the couple before Moxie broke the silence. What do you think our chances are, she asks. Worried? Moxie snorted at that. Me? Worried? Hardly, I'm just asking our chances. We have 2 civilians and a goat boy, I don't know how well they perform under pressure, she said with a subtle innuendo. Naruto sighed. I won't say anything, since I don't know what we are dealing with. I can only plan with what little, or lack thereof, information. But if my assumption is correct on just who Percy's godly parent is, then the traps I set should buy us enough time to escape and make it to camp, hopefully, he said. Not so sure, Mr. Strategist. There is always a chance, no matter how small, that something wrong could happen. I'm not a fool to think that everything will go accordingly. Yet all we can do is hope for the best. Time skip midnight. You don't have to do this, you can still come with me, you and Zabuza both. I can talk to the old man to give the both of you a place in Konoha, Naruto cried out to a masked individual in front of him, this masked person being the person he loves, and pained him for having to fight her. Sadly she shook her head. I'm sorry, Naruto, you know the reason why we can't accept the offer, she said, holding up several senbon between her fingertips. It doesn't have to be this way, please, I don't want to fight you. Naruto's eyes snap open as one of his traps was triggered and caused a large explosion. We must have doze off, Moxie said, also being woken up by the sound of Naruto's trap. The blonde stumbled back for a bit as he was assaulted by the memory of his clones, undead soldiers. I don't have time to wonder about that, he thought, and quickly told Moxie to go fetch their other companion. Several other explosions can be heard as it was triggered by who or whatever forces were against them. Naruto, what's going on? Sally asks frantically. I've placed several traps around this location in case anyone or anything would try to ambush us, and looks like I'm correct. Now get in, he ordered before turning to his partner Moxie. Stay at the back and cover our 6. Moxie nodded and got into the back of Naruto's car. Everyone hold on, this is going to be a bumpy ride, Naruto warned before driving off like a madman. Taking the path the blonde assumed would get them a good amount of distance away from Montauk, he drove past several trees and into the main road. Disregarding the speed limit, he stomped his foot on the gas pedal and drove. What's happening, Naruto? Who is after us? Percy asks. Some undead soldiers with gun, which sound like a cheesy 80s or 70s horror film, but yeah, and Large Bull is leading them. Grover, do you know anything about this? He said before asking the satyr, who turned a shen at the mention of what was after them. Wait, a Large Bull, you mean a? Before Percy could finish, his mother cut him off. Don't mention its name, Percy, names hold power, she chastised. Normally Percy would have questioned it for being a myth, but after seeing what his blonde friend can do and his interaction with Miss Dodds, the sea green-eyed teen knew this was real, and Pasiphae's son was really after them. Moxie, is anyone following us? Naruto asks out. No, yes, they're behind us, Moxie said as she started firing with her special sniper rifle Naruto made called Chiramai. Naruto made this rifle for her as a gift on her birthday with a medal that was given to him by his father a few months ago, and she showed her appreciation by, well, let's just say the things she did to show her appreciation were beyond anything the porn industry could possibly think of. Crap, keep your head down, Naruto ordered as he swerved to the left, avoiding a round from a rocket launcher. Not to alarm anyone, but there is a black cloud after us as well, Moxie said, switching to different rounds of ammo, as the normal rounds she used weren't effective. Like her sniper rifle, Naruto made use of the special metal he had to make this particular 50 cal ammo that no normal weapon could possibly handle. Hellhounds. Oh gods, why, Grover cried out in fear. Peachy, Naruto muttered under his breath. Sally, I need you to take the wheel and drive us to that camp. Percy's mom nodded and carefully took the wheel. Now Sally was in the driver's seat and Naruto was on the passenger seat. Summoning his bow, Naruto rolled the widows down and moved half of his body outside of the car. Don't worry about keeping it steady, just drive here, he assured the brunette. Lining up his chute, Naruto pulled back on a strong draw weight for high damage and a long range, and since him and Moxie were dealing with mythical or supernatural creature, the blonde decided to use his chakra arrow. The chakra arrow, like his Rasengan, is pure chakra manipulation, and like his Rasengan, Naruto mastered it to a point that he could instantly form it. And unlike normal arrows, he didn't need to take into account how gravity or the wind would hinder his chute, since it's basically weightless and could cut through even a category F5 tornado on medium draw weight. And he doesn't need to worry about running out of arrows, unless if he's fully drained, that is. Keeping his breath light and steady, to Naruto everything around him had gone into silence and was focused solely on his target. He exhaled slowly before letting his arrow slice through the very air itself. If anyone could see it, they would have thought someone fired off a laser gun like in those sci-fi movies they've watched. Naruto's chakra arrow hit its mark in between the eyes of a hellhound, killing it in an instant. Nice shoot, Sugar, Moxie complimented before firing another round, killing another 2 undead soldier and lighting them up on fire. Naruto placed 2 special seals when he made Moxie's favorite toy, as she calls it. The first is a seal that would imbue the rifle with an elemental affinity, in this case fire, and the second seal was a chakra generator that stored his potent chakra. The second seal would allow the first seal to activate and coat the bullet with the fire affinity upon leaving the chamber of the gun. Moxie had questioned the potential of seals with Naruto, stating that it could outpace or outmatch modern technology or anything else for that matter. Naruto simply replied that seals are limitless, depending on the person's imagination, which was why his clan was both feared and envied, to a point that 3 of the 5 major nations would band together to eradicate his clan. The blonde Cricky pay her no mind, his focus was solely on his target, killing said target and make sure his friends are safe. The blonde fired off 3 chakra arrow in quick succession, hitting its specific target with deadly consistency of headshots. One undead managed to fire another rocket before Moxie killed it. Shit, she mentally cursed as she ran out of ammo and pulled out her sidearm, pistol, and fired. The force of the explosion caused Sally to swerve violently to the left side, causing Naruto to be thrown out of the car. Naruto, they shouted, aside from Moxie. The blonde did a mid-air flip before landing, and Ninja dashed back towards the car, using the other cars on the road to close the distance between him and his car. Sorry about that, Moxie said, knowing full well Naruto would be fine and could easily catch up with them. Naruto nodded and stayed on the roof of the car and glued himself on top with his chakra before resuming and killing his targets. Naruto and Moxie continue proving cover fire for what seems like hours until they drove past a large strawberry farm that had a large wooden that looked darkened and had a large picket sign that said pick your own strawberries. We are nearly there, they heard Sally and Grover say. Where are we going? Percy managed to ask in his panic and adrenaline-induced state. The summer camp I told you about, Sally choked out, trying to fight back the tears. The place you said you didn't want me to go, Percy said, making Moxie almost smack the kind on the head, knowing that was just going to make Sally feel bad, but couldn't since she was busy with covering their asses. Please, dear, this is hard enough. Try to understand. You, Moxie, and Naruto are in danger, his mother begged. Yes, especially since the thread was cut, Grover added ominously. Why? What does a thread some old lady cut has to do with anything? Percy asked. Moxie sighed. Didn't you paid attention to your never mind, she started, not taking her eyes off her target. If we go about everything we know now, such as the hellhounds, the undead soldier, the large bull, and Grover being a goat boy, then we can associate this with Greek mythology. And those 3 old ladies are what you call the fates. To make it short, when they cut the yarn, that means someone is going to die and that somebody is possibly either of us, Moxie explained before taking out another undead soldier. Exactly, Grover said, confirming Moxie's words. The fact they appeared in front of you, I mean someone, then that means someone is going to die, he finished. Whoa, you said you, Percy said, freaking out even more. No, I didn't. I said someone, Grover argued back. Ladies, stop bickering before I decide to slap your faces, Moxie hissed out. Sally pulled the wheel hard to the right, narrowly missing a large figure that suddenly appeared, but this action caused Moxie to miss her target and said target fired a missile, hitting the left side of the road. Sally lost control of the car, making it flip over. Naruto jumped off the roof of the car as it spun in midair. Before landing, everyone get out of the car. Now Naruto bark out, firing of multiple chakra arrows to give them time to get out of the downed car. Naruto, Grover is unconscious. Percy shouted. Great. Naruto groaned and summoned a shadow clone to carry the unconscious adder, who mumbled something about food. We need to reach that giant tree on top of the hill, Sally said, pointed a large pine tree that towered over all the other trees. Head straight for it and don't stop. Get over the hill and you'll see a big farmhouse down in the valley. Just run and don't look back. Yell for help. Don't stop until you reach the door. Guys, go on ahead, I'll them back, Naruto said, shocking the group, and saw they were about to protest until Naruto shot a rocket round with his arrow. We don't have time to argue, I'll be fine, just go, Naruto shouted at the last part firmly. And Moxie said with a bit of reluctance, but knew Naruto can handle himself. You better come back to me, I mean us, she said before leaving. Inferno, Elysium, it's time, Naruto mentally said. Yes, Naruto-sama. There was a brief flash of light before it dissipates, leaving his two main weapon, Soul Edge on his right and Soul Calibur on his left, both in their scythe forms. Just as a pack of hellhounds and undead soldiers surrounded him. It was a standstill. No one seemed to move a single muscle or even twitch until a roar from a hellhound as it charged towards the blonde, who stood his ground and simply sidestepped at the last minute before slicing the hound in two. Next, he said, his expression unreadable, and his eyes were overshadowed by his bangs, but if looked closely once could see his eyes were half-lit, as if he was bored. Several undead soldiers fired at the blonde and 3 threw their grenades at him. The blonde simply dodged out of the way and managed to deflect on grenade back towards the group. The grenade exploded, killing the group of undead, though some managed to survive, but not before Naruto was suddenly in front of them and sliced them in a horizontal slash. Naruto-sama, remember you have to finish them off quickly, Elysium reminded as her master dodged a volley of bullets and decapitate 2 hellhound before rushing a group of undead soldiers as they reloaded, slicing their heads off. I know, he said, before connecting his dual scythe together and sliced 2 undead soldiers and thrust Soul Edge forwards, piercing the head of the 3rd undead soldier. He quickly unhinged his 2 scythes and used it to black 2 hellhound and pushed them back. While the 2 were in mid-air, Naruto quickly attacked the 2 hellhound and sliced them with both his scythes. He then dodges several rockets aimed at him and quickly threw both his scythes at the undead soldiers, killing them before they could reload, and as quickly as he threw his weapon, both weapons returned to him like a boomerang. The rest of the undead soldiers fired another volley of bullets, but what happened next surprised them. The blonde had connected his scythes together with both ends pointing forwards and started to deflect all the bullets that were fired at him, swinging his scythes at nearly impossibly speeds, becoming almost a blur. Good thing I've studied the Haika's variation of Kaiten revolving heaven, he thought. Harapto no Sarasu teleportation slash. In an instant Naruto was in front of several undead soldiers taking cover behind several 3. He killed the first one before he spun his scythe around in a full circular arch, finishing off the rest of the undead soldiers. The blonde turned to a charging hellhound and horizontally slicing it in half and continued to brutally kill the rest till none remain. Inside his mindscape, Kurumi had a lewd smile at the carnage her destined mate displayed in front of her. Such brutal efficiency, fitting for a demon like yourself, Koichi gleefully said. It was only in the battlefield where she would see Naruto's darker side, an artist at the art of killing and execution. An example is when Naruto had stabbed one undead soldier in the neck with both his scythe before he flips over, brutally removing its head in a gory decapitation. Another is when he stabbed another undead soldier, but instead of removing its head, he jumps behind the undead solider. Flips the body over and used it to hammer a hellhound into the ground. After this, I'm definitely going to drag him into his mindscape and ride him until we both feel our hips break, Fufu, she said in her battle lust-induced state, which was only reserved for Naruto and Naruto alone. Back with Naruto, the blonde finished of the last wave of undead soldier and hellhound. Not feeling a bit tired or fatigued that he fought a small army thanks to Soul Edge's special ability. Now that's done, time to his train of thought was cut off as the memory of his clone came into mind, nearly making him curse as he dashed towards his friend's hold on, he mentally prayed. But the other moments after leaving Naruto. Moxie, are sure it was right for us to just leave Naruto behind, Percy questioned, worried for his blonde friend along with his mother. Don't worry about the boss, Percy, the clone said with a reassuring smile. Yeah, you've seen him in action when he killed that bat of a teacher, correct? Percy nodded to this, and Moxie continued, then you don't have to worry about she was cut off when she felt a bullet graze her cheeks. The group quickly took cover. Moxie peered out and saw several undead soldiers. Shit, they must have waited to ambush us, or some of them might have gone ahead to cut us off, Moxie said before taking aim and fired at one of the undead soldier who peered its head up, blowing the top part of its head before it lit on fire. And it seems that undead soldier was carrying some grenades because as soon as it caught on fire, the undead soldier exploded, taking the rest of the undead soldier with him. Thank you, Tich, Moxie mentally thanks the goddess of luck. "We're close," Ali said, but suddenly a monstrous creature, bull-like monster covered in brown fur with large horns on its skull face, was blocking their way, and in its right hand was a large rock. The Minotaur threw the rock, aiming it directly at Percy and Sally. The clone saw this and quickly dropped Grover on the ground, causing him to wake up and screamed out when he saw Pasiphae's son. The clone pushed both mother and son away, saving them from being crushed. "Grover, that was a clone, now get your ass moving," Moxie said, snapping Grover out of his shock state as he thought his friend got killed. "If acts like any other bull, then when it charges we wait for the last second and then jump out of the way directly sideways. He can't change direction very well once he's charging," Moxie suggested. "She's right," both Grover and Sally said in unison. "How do you know all this and why don't you just kill it?" Percy asked. "I and Naruto had a mission at Mexico to assassinate a corrupt official while he was attending a bullfighting show. I've noted how the Matador would sidestep at the last possible second, just before the bull could hit him, and to answer your question, I've ran out of ammo," she said. Moxie turned her head and saw the Minotaur charge at them. "Jump out of the way now," she shouted, "at the last possible second." They did as instructed and jumped out of the way. The bull went straight past them and ended up slamming into a tree. "That should buy us some time," she thought. Reaching the hill with the tree, they saw that a valley was below them, and it had a farmhouse that had yellow lights glowing in the window. "Moxie, take Percy and go." "I can't go any farther," Sally cried out. Before her son or Moxie could respond, they froze in fear and shock as the Minotaur came rushing up to them, and it was clearly heading toward Sally. She tried to get out of the way like last time, but the bull had learned its lesson last time. The bull-like man arms shoot forward and grab Sally with his large hands. She struggled to free herself. Percy watched in horror as his mother looked at him for one last time before the monster squeezed, but before it could crush her, the bull screamed out in pain as a yellow blur sliced its arm off. "Naruto!" Percy heard Moxie called out in relief and saw his blonde friend kick the monster several feet away. "Grover, call for help and hurry. Moxie, check on Sally's condition." "And I'll handle that bull-headed freak," Naruto ordered and remembered about the special barrier. The satyr nodded and quickly ran to call for help, and both Moxie and Percy rushed to Sally's side. "Mom, Naruto's here, we're safe, Mom," Percy asks and saw his mother struggling for breath. I'm glad to haha have a son, I like why you are and are, remember I love you," was the last thing she said before her eyes close. "Mom?" Percy cried out in anguish, making Naruto look back with eyes widen. Once again he failed to protect someone. Once again he failed his friend. Once again he failed in keeping his promise. Memories of his first failure at protecting the one he loved flashed before his eyes as both Percy and Sally, who was in her son's arms, was replaced with his image and her image. "No," he muttered in denial. "No. Naruto shouted in rage and turned his attention to the one responsible, missing the crowd that arrived behind him. "You," Naruto said in a demonic voice at seeing the bull-headed man. "I'll kill you, Roya," he said and shouted as dark violet-colored energy shoot out from his body and he began leaking massive amounts of killing intent. The potency caused the surrounding area around the blonde to slowly wither and die. "Be grateful, freak, you are but the second person to see this form." With it, the dark violet aura enveloped Naruto's body and with a massive wave they saw not Naruto, but Death himself. There, hovering in front of them, was a large figure whose face is completely hidden in the shadows of a cowl. A large robe envelopes the rest of the body, on its back were skeletal wings, and wielding a massive scythe with many skulls engraved into the flat of the blade. With just a blink of an eye, the massive figure was in front of the Minotaur and slice off its remaining appendages before dark violet chains shoot up from the ground and embedded itself into where the Minotaur's arms and legs once was. "Scream for me," and Pasiphae's son scream in pain. "You feel, don't you? The corrosive chakra entering your body, haha, don't worry, it gets worse," Naruto said in a demented voice as he stabbed the bull-like creature chest with his bone-like hands. All it could do was scream out in pain as the corrosive substance slowly melted its body. "What happened to him?" the sea green-eyed teen asks in fear and awe. "That is Naruto's Reaper form," the brunette said and visibly shivered. "I've only seen it once and I wish I hadn't asked him to. This is one of his strongest technique and his most frightening. I mean, you saw those brief flashes of your death in the most brutal way possible, correct?" The black-haired teen and the people behind him nodded. "That is one of its effects, is to instill all those affected by his killing intent aura with the dread of death, with flashes of images of your own death in the most brutal way. I don't know the full extent of the technique since he cancelled just when I was about to kill myself to escape that dreaded feeling," she finished and shivered again in fear. "Be thankful I shall give you the sweet relief of death," Naruto said before he swung his massive scythe in one quick blurry motion, slicing the Minotaur into pieces. In Olympus, the gods and goddess were discussing, yes, discussing, not arguing, since their time in the elemental nation seemed to mellow them down and reminded them of the bonds of family, on who would steal both Zeus' lightning bolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades' helm of darkness. But then the Olympian felt a massive killing intent aura near the camp, which prompted Zeus to summon Irish and ordered her to bring a live video feed of the camp. They were surprised to see a blonde-haired teen surrounded by a mass of dark violet energy. Once goddess instantly recognized the teen Naruto. The goddess mumbled. Escha, sister, do you know this child? Demeter questioned, having heard her sister mumbled out a name. Escha nodded and was about to tell just who Naruto is, but a voice answered for her. He is the legacy of you Olympian and my son. They instantly turned to the source of the voice, and they were surprised at who it was. Zeus muttered in a bit of fear and disbelief at seeing the primordial goddess of the night and the daughter of chaos. Hello Olympian, she greeted, giving a court bow, manners and all, to the gods and goddess of the Olympus. You've sensed it as well, Hestia said to the primordial being. Yes, and I knew that the rest of you gods and goddess would wonder just who my son and your legacy is, she said, bringing the topic to light. Wait, your son and Aunt Hestia's legacy? How? asks a disbelief Hermes. Well, if none of you interrupt me then I can properly explain. Taking their silence as an indication, she decided to explain everything about Naruto, his relation to herself and Hestia, and finally his lineage with the rest of the Olympian. So let me get this straight, Athena, the goddess of wisdom started. Naruto is your son from your mortal shell, Mina Namikaze, and your wife Kushina Uzumaki, the daughter of Aunt Hestia's mortal shell, and a legacy of the rest of us, dating back to my father and Lady Hera's daughter. Nyx nodded. You simplified it perfectly. Now to the reason why I and Hestia took him from the elemental nation. She snaps her finger and images of Naruto dark past flash before their eyes. Not soon after they exploded in a fit of rage and cursed out loudly at the mortals who dared harm their legacy. Surprising, Hestia allowed them to curse in every language they knew, as she herself had the same reaction. So it wasn't much of a surprise that they promptly stood up with the full intention of smite Konoha and all its inhabitants, which Hestia stopped by standing in their way. Sister, please move aside. We have some mortals to punish, Zeus ordered, close to turn into his true godly form. Yes, Aunt Hestia, those mortals have a lot to answer for. Not only did they dare harm a defenseless child and tortured him, but they dare harm our legacy. Those insects will know the feeling of being hunted down, Artemis said vehemently, already contemplating on what kind of animal would she turn those filthy mortals into. The other nodded as well, wanting to show rightful vengeance for their legacy. Believe me, nothing more would please me than to see them brought to Tartarus to be tortured for their transgression, Hestia said. Then why are you stopping us? Sister Hera asks, losing her patience at the eldest Olympian. All of you did see the people of the red light, correct, she reminded, and they nodded. Then you would know from Naruto's memory that he considers them their family and precious people. By harming Konoha you would be harming them as well, including others who he considers precious to his heart. They gave out a remorse sigh. Oh, that won't be a problem. I'll be sure to avoid them as I hack down those funkers, Ares said, his eyes burning with hot rage, and like his father, he was also close into turning into his godly form. At the warmonger's statement their eyes re-lit up and nodded in agreement. They could easily avoid harming their legacy's precious people. You would still harm them, since by killing of majority of the people in Konoha you would leave the survivors, Naruto's precious people, vulnerable to attack from other nation looking to capitalize on Konoha's weakened state. And have all of you forgotten the law? We are not allowed to interfere with the mortals, the goddess of the night said. As much as she want those mortals to suffer, she couldn't risk harming his son's precious people. Ares roared out in rage and punched one of the columns, breaking it in half. Then what do you suggest we do? Need I remind you this is also an insult not only to us, but to you as well, Primordial, he asks. My daughters, the Fates, have already informed me that their end, those who dare harm their little brother, Nyx informed. They relented hearing the Primordial's words. Indeed, if the Fates decree it then it would happen soon, and it seems my son has transformed back into his original state. All heads turned back to the screen. Back with Naruto, the Bond transformed back to his original self. Damn it, not yet used to it. The Reaper form was the combined power of Kurumi's corrosive Inki, Inferno's and Elysium's special abilities combined. All held together by his unique chakra. The Reaper form is one of his strongest techniques, but it was very taxing on the body as it absorbs a lot of his chakra, and he could only maintain in for a maximum of 3 minutes. Even if he masters it, Kurumi speculated he could only maintain the form for a maximum of 5-6 minutes, at best 7. So this jutsu was only reserved as his final trump card if he is pushed to the point of defeat. Naruto walked back towards his friend Percy. I'm sorry, he said, dropping down on his knees in regret. See, can't you do anything, Naruto? I mean, you have these awesome powers, can't you do something please? The sea green-eyed teen begged. Naruto was about to reply, but Elysium stopped him. Master, I can sense a bit of her life force remaining, but it is incredibly faint, she informed. Is there a way yo save her? The blonde asks. There is. But the process would change her. I don't know to what extent, but it will change her nonetheless. Her voice sounded very hesitant about the idea and the complication it might bring. Elysium, are you suggesting that he transfer his chakra into that human's body? Kurumi said, figuring Elysium's plan. Yes. Are you insane? Both Inferno and Kurumi snap at the blonde spirit. Is there a chance? Naruto asks, putting a stop to their argument before it even begins. Yes, but it would require you to also transfer a bit of your own coils and assimilate it with her own, since the humans of this world are unlike the humans of the elemental nation, who can expand their coils, even if they are civilian. By doing so you can save her life, but the downside is your power level would drop to Jonin level and expose your true form Elysium finished. Don't forget the change that could happen to Jackson-san's body. We don't know the possible negative side effect that could happen to her body. Heck, her body could implode or mutate her, and Naruto would be responsible for either. Both Kurumi reminded and glared at the blonde spirit for her softness and risk of her destined mate. But there is also a chance that it won't happen, that it would save Sally Jackson and spare a child from losing his mother. Elysium argued back. The two started to argue until Inferno had enough. He roared out, this choice is ultimately Naruto-sama's decision, so let him decide. The three entities turned to the blonde, who had a contemplated look on his face, weigh the chances of success and failure, as well as the backlash and consequence of such action. Like Newton's third law. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. I choose. Before Naruto could finish, Kurumi interjected. Remember, you are risking yourself, Naruto-kun, by transferring your coils and chakra into Jackson-san, you are weakening yourself, and for what? For friendship, please Koi, don't kid yourself. That boy was like all those other worthless humans, jealous, petty, weak, and resentful. If it weren't for that incident with that weird bat creature, then I highly doubt the boy's opinion of you would have changed, she pointed out, while glaring at Elysium, for even suggesting that her destined mate helped such a lowly creature by doing something that would put months upon months of training down the gutter by weakening him. Besides, why should Naruto even considering helping that boy? He was like everyone else in that human school. They hated Naruto for the status he held as the student council president and student disciplinary committee. It was human nature to hate those who are more powerful or higher in a position, and a school full of rich snobs and spoiled brats only cemented that fact. As the head of the student council and disciplinary committee, Naruto held more sway within the student body than any other students of the school. Something they tried to change with the money and connection their parents had, but any and all attempts would always end up in failure because Naruto held more connection and knew people in high places. This fact was quickly made known, and soon a lot of people would try to befriend the blonde for their own purposes, be it students or faculty members, with the exception to Chiron and Miss Dodds for obvious reasons. Again, this is the pettiness of humans, to try and leech off those superior to them, something that disgusts Kurumi and made her view humanity as unintelligent mongrels, worms, and leeches hell-bent on self-destruction just to satisfy their own needs, her destined mate being the only exception. Bigby's hatred was from her experiences growing up. She, like her siblings, were hunted down and sealed to be used as tools, weapons for their own selfish need for power. The people of the elemental nation saw them as mindless creatures that should bend to their will, to be used like common horse. This is where her hatred for humanity came from and where Naruto differed. When she met the blonde, he was but a child. He showed no fear, no hatred, or even desire for power. Naruto only asked why she attacked the village. This shocked her, and she decided to take a look at his memories. Her shock only grew, along with her hatred for humanity. She told the boy what really happened, how she was controlled by an Uchiha and the truth about his parents. Then she asked him if he wanted power to take revenge on those people who harmed him. But to her growing surprise he refused, and what he said only cemented the fact that he wasn't like most humans. It's your power, not mine. Why would I want someone else's power? Power and strength should not be given, it should be earned, and I will earn mine. Not for revenge, but for my sake and those who are precious to me. Oh, and I don't blame you, Kikby. Even if you killed my parents, I don't care. Why should I? I don't even know them. If I blame you for something out of your control, then I would be like the villagers, ignorant and opinionated. It's because of him that I'm hated. It's because of him that my parents are dead. All of it is his fault. It was jutsu that made you rampage and attack the village. You don't go blaming the weapon. You blame the one who used it. After that, Kurumi observed Naruto for an entire month before deciding to lend her aid by helping him train and giving him permission to use her power. And then came the day he met these two, Kurumi thought, glancing at the two sentient spirits. How the blonde met the two was a story for another time. There is no guarantee that she would even survive after the transfer. Her body is not properly conditioned to handle chakra, especially your potent chakra, she said. I have to agree with Kurumi's sister, though it would be interesting to see how a human body melts from the inside out. I've only seen a person melt from the outside, Inferno said, gaining a curious look at the last part. He recalled the many foes he melted with his control over fire, but he never did melt someone's inside, and it actually intrigued him on what it would look like. But not so much that he would risk his master. But the two of you have sensed it, correct? That lingering energy around her is most likely the energy left by Percy's father, she shot back. Oh? You're hoping whatever energy that still lingered within Jackson-san's body would somehow help. Don't make me laugh, Elysium. It wouldn't work. It's too small and different to meld with Naruto, it would be like trying to mix oil and water, they won't. So your opinion is moot and mine still stands, that Naruto-kun should not help her and leave her to her fate, Kurumi retorted back with a sneer. Besides, he's known them how long, a day with Jackson-san and a week with the boy, not much bonding there to make him risk himself. Even if the process succeeds, she'll die eventually, and what then? Would you have Naruto-kun, your master, risk himself again bringing her back, she further added, glaring at the blonde spirit. Her immense powers flared, evidenced by her 9 tails, making Elysium drop to her knees. Enough, Naruto ordered, firmly, getting fed up with their growing argument. I'm getting a splitting headache from the two of you arguing, he added, before glancing toward Sally and Percy. Kurumi's words were true, there were too many variables and too much risk with little guarantee of success. Even if the transfer is successful, there was a chance that her body could implode or simply melt away. Too many variables and no positive outcomes only made things worse for the blonde, filling him with more regret and sadness. Ah, damn it, he mentally cursed, which for him was a first. Naruto sighed sadly and turned his eyes to meet Percy. With a remorseful voice he spoke, Percy, I'm sorry, there is nothing I can do. The look of devastation in the teen's eye only made him feel worse. Sally's in a better place now, and remember, she loved you, she truly did. So in return, live for her, continue on in her memory, but never forget, Naruto finished firmly. Percy nodded but didn't say anything. I will. And tears staring to flow like a river. Moxie brought the teen into a comforting hug and whispered soothing words. Just let it out, Percy, it will only hurt more if you bottle it up. Naruto looked away in shame and cursed himself for his weakness. I should have ended my battle earlier. I could have saved her, he thought in regret. Once again, I find myself in a similar situation, and in both situations it ended the same. The only difference is it is someone else's precious person that died. Regret, that's all he felt right now. Somewhere from a distance 2 lone figures watched from afar. Is he in? The first figure asked. The second figure nodded. Yes, the distraction provided by the Jinchuriki proved most useful. The second figure confirmed. None of them suspect a thing. The first figure chuckled, Cuckoo, excellent. And with the beast guarding those weapons we can move freely with our plans, Cuckoo. He said, his yellow snake-like eyes glowed menacingly. The 2 figures suddenly vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto's eyes widened when he felt a familiar energy. Impossibly, how could his thoughts were interrupted when he saw pink light surround Moxie and 2 symbols appear above her head, a snow-white dove with a pinkish aura around it and an owl. Symbols of 2 goddesses that Naruto knew. Well, that explains a lot, the blonde thought, recalling all the schemes and plans that his partner would think up. Her features changed as well, making her even more beautiful in Naruto's eyes. Once the light died down, the clothes the brunette wore changed to a purple double-breasted uniform that showed off her thighs, a V-neck pattern that showed her breasts, and her dark blue panties. Black and white stripe patterned leg covers, and white high-heel boots. On top of her head was a purple top hat that had a Queen of Hearts card stuck in it. Well, I thought you were beautiful before, now you're downright gorgeous, Naruto commented with a whistle. It has been determined. All hail Madeline Mox, daughter of Aphrodite, goddess of beauty, love, lust, desire, sexuality, and pleasure, legacy of Athena, goddess of warfare, wisdom, and battle strategy. Naruto heard Chiron and instantly everyone kneeled down. Naruto went to congratulate her, but stopped when bright lights began to envelop him, causing everyone to look up at him and gasp. Above his head were 15 symbols, each depicting the major Olympians from both generations, but the last and most prominent symbol frightened them. It was a star and a crescent moon. By order and chaos, how is this possible, said a girl with curly golden honey blonde hair and gray eyes. Everyone in camp had the same thought in mind, but they were too shocked to say it out loud. I don't know, but regardless, it has been determined, Chiron said, and once again kneeled down along with everyone else. All hail Naruto Uzumaki, son of Nyx, goddess of darkness and protogenos of the night, Chiron started before continuing, legacy of Hestia, goddess of the hearth, home and family, legacy of Hera, goddess of marriage, motherhood, and queen of Olympus, legacy of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, agriculture, and the harvest, legacy of Poseidon, god of the seas, earthquakes, and horses. Legacy of Hades, god of the underworld, wealth, and lord of the dead, legacy of Zeus, god of lightning, lord of the skies, and king of Olympus, legacy of Aphrodite, goddess of beauty, love, lust, desire, sexuality, and pleasure, legacy of Athena, goddess of warfare, wisdom, and battle strategy, legacy of Artemis, goddess of the hunt, childbirth, and the moon, legacy of Apollo, god of the sun. Prophecy and healing, legacy of Hermes, god of messengers, travelers, and thieves, legacy of Hephaestus, god of fire, the forge, and volcanoes, legacy of Dionysus, god of grape harvest, wine, and madness, legacy of Ares, god of war, rage, and violence. Chiron finished. Well, this is unexpected. When the glow died down, Naruto heard another set of gasps. Naruto Percy trailed off on the last part with wide eyes, though they held intrigue and confusion. Naruto caught on. Of course, he sighed. Since the seal he placed to conceal his mutation in appearance, which happened after he regained the other half of Kurumi's Imki chakra from the fourth Hokage's corpse, dropped. Kurumi said it was a side effect from her Imki entering his body. He felt weird at first, but learned to accept it and used a Genjutsu seal to hide his appearance. The good thing about this mutation, aside from his wonderful appearance as Kurumi put it, is his senses were enhanced and he got an increase in stamina. As for power level, it did not increase, it only furthered his chakra potency. Naruto's whisker marks darkened and became more distinct. His untamed hair grew shoulder length with 6 strands of hair like streaks running down the front, side, and back side of his head. But the most noticeable features were his 9 tails, fox-like ears on top of his head, and his sharp claws. Like Moxie, his clothing changed to a black and red colored male kimono that showed off his figure. 4 of Naruto's 9 tails were reddish gold. This signified his level of power. If Naruto were to rank himself, he could say he was around a high B rank to middle A rank, that's with using the 2 soul swords, A rank with Kurumi's Imki, since he could only maintain 3 tails worth of her power and has yet to fully master controlling it. Are you afraid? He asked, already assuming they now saw him as a monster. No, came the quick response from Moxie and Percy. He looked at them in a bit of disbelief. You are my friend Naruto and you are nothing like those monsters. Percy knew his friend was nothing like them and said the last part with venom. You're my partner Naruto, and I don't care about this new appearance. To me you're still the same guy I met in the cafe. If anything, this just made you even hotter, Moxie said with a look on her face. And how about all of you? He asked the campers. Some had a look of weariness on them, but it was overlapped by the awestruck look they had. None of the campers are afraid of you, Mr. Uzumaki. Chiron stated firmly, shocked and weary yes, but afraid, no. Mostly shocked because of your lineage, he said. Naruto nodded, understanding what Chiron meant. I suppose so, the blonde said in agreement. I'm related to 14 Olympians and 1 primordial being, so I suppose it's a shocker that I exist. He concluded. Naruto made a one-handed seal doten. Chikakmazum no Jutsu Earth Release. Earth Burial Technique. As the name implied, it was a technique used to bury the dead. I pride myself on being an excellent judge of character, and I firmly believe that Sally Jackson was a kind, considerate, and overall great mother, Naruto said in a somber tone. I only wish I could have saved and got to know her. He ended, bowing his head in respect, a gesture everyone else followed in respect for the passing. I'm sure if things were different, me and Mrs. Jackson could have easily become friends. But I felt we were, she was an easy person to get along with, did not judge me for what I am and accepted me. For that, I thank her and wish her peace in the afterlife, Moxie said, bowing her head and wiping away a stray tear. Thank you, Percy said to his 2 friends. I never realized that my mom gave up a lot of things for me, but hey, I guess that's what defines a mother, right? For that I am thankful and I'm sorry mom for doubting you. I love you mom, he choked out as tears began to flow once again. Moxie allowed the sea green-eyed teen to lean on her for comfort and said teen silently thanked her. Percy nodded towards Naruto and the blonde made a hand seal, causing the coffin to sink into the ground. Once it sunk down, a tombstone appeared with the image of Sally Jackson etched into the rock with the inscription. Sally Jackson, a loving woman and a great mother. Looks like Percy tired himself out. Understandable that he is emotionally exhausted, Naruto said, summoning 2 shadow clones to gently carry him. He turned his attention to the honey blonde-haired girl, who straightened up when she realized her fellow blonde's gaze was on her. Show my clones where the infirmary is, will you? Naruto trailed off. Annabeth Chase, daughter of Athena, she introduced herself. Naruto nodded. Yes, nice meet you Annabeth. Can you please direct my clones to the infirmary? Yes, she answered. Naruto nodded in thanks and ordered his clones to follow the girl. Now, Chiron, where are we supposed to stay? The blonde asked, gesturing to both him and Moxie. Well, since Ms. Moxie, just call me Moxie, okay? Chiron nodded. As I was saying, Ms. Moxie can stay in Aphrodite's cabin, cabin 10, since she is her daughter. Moxie shook her head. Sorry, but I'm staying with him, she said, pointing at Naruto, and, by her tone of voice, she wasn't going to take no for an answer. Well, Mr. Uzumaki could stay with you at your mother's cabin, since he is her legacy. Naruto nodded, not having the mental strength to say anything else. Good, Selena here will show you to cabin 10, the trainer of heroes gestured towards a young teen with blonde hair with brown streaks, blue eyes, and a slim figure. Hello, I'm Selena Beauregard, she introduced herself. So, you're my sister huh? Moxie looked at her sister with pitical eyes. Selena felt a bit small under Moxie's intimidating gaze, and she knew her sister was judging her. A bit scrawny, but I can fix that, and I guess that goes for my other siblings as well, Selena heard her say. She nodded, confirming Moxie's words. I see, don't worry, me and Naruto here will fix that. Naruto just nodded, not even trying to do or say anything else at this point. Let me show you to cabin 10 then. While I'm at it, I might as well show you to the other cabins. Both nodded and followed the daughter of Aphrodite. The duo saw 12 cabins, to which Naruto raised a brow in confusion. I'll ask her during the tour, he thought. We have 12 cabins, as you can clearly see. The first is Lord Zeus's cabin, cabin 1. The cabin was a marble cabin that looked like a mausoleum with heavy columns and big bronze double doors that had holographic projections of lightning bolts, accompanied by thunderous sounds. A bit excessive, Naruto thought, while his partner was in the same line as him, along with thinking that the Lord of the Sky was a bit too flashy. That or he might be compensating for something. You know, since you are a legacy of Lord Zeus, it's possible you could get to stay in this cabin. Naruto gained a thoughtful look at Selena's remark and thought of asking Chiron about that later. Next is Lady Hera's cabin, cabin 2. The second cabin was formal-looking, graceful with slim shimmering columns garlanded with pomegranates and flowers. Naruto nodded in approval at the simple yet elegant design, as did Moxie. There is beauty in simplicity, he thought. Aside from the statue, I see no furniture. Why is that? Moxie asked, as she had assumed that she would see elegant furniture inside, but it seems that wasn't the case. Instead of Selena answering that, a voice behind them answered for her. Lady Hera doesn't run around having affairs with mortals. That is her husband's job, the voice behind them joked. Naruto turned his head around and smiled. Grover, it's good to see you awake. Are feeling okay? Grover nodded with a sad look on his face. I'm sorry that I wasn't much. Naruto cut him off, already figuring out what the satyr was going to say. Don't, Grover. Don't blame yourself, okay, he stated softly. It was my decision to split the group, so the blame falls to me and me alone, he stated firmly. But he tried to protest, but a raised hand from Naruto silenced him. But nothing, as leader it falls to me to shoulder the blame and responsibility, Naruto stated. Yeah, and you helped. Don't you recall handing me ammunition when I was running low and you patrolling the Montauk area allowed Naruto's clones to set the traps that got us a head start? Moxie reminded, pointing out the things Grover did that helped the group. So stop blaming yourself, got it, Naruto ended with a glare. The Caucasian satyr nodded. The tour continued with Grover acting as the second tour guide. Poseidon's cabin, cabin 3. The long, low building with windows facing the ocean, which was made from, what Naruto and Moxie could tell, rough sea stones. Pieces of coral and seashell were embedded into the outside wall, and there was a trident with a big bronze number 3 over the door. So this is to be Percy's new home, the blonde thought. The next cabin was cabin 4, Demeter's cabin. The cabin was covered in flowers and tomato plants growing on the walls and doorway, with wildflowers and roses on the porch and an actual grass rooftop. Well, at least I know where to get vegetables and grains, the blonde thought with Moxie, thinking the place looked like nice and that she wouldn't mind staying in the cabin. The next cabin was Ares's cabin, which was painted red and had a large boar's head over the door with barbed wire on the roof. Moxie thought the place looked dull, while Naruto thought the cabin needed work or a change, something to the likeness of an army base tent. It would be more fitting, he thought. Hey Selena, showing the new campers around, said a rather tall girl with long, light brown hair and a feminine build with some muscles. This is Clarice LaRue, daughter of Ares, Selena introduced. Naruto nodded. Nice to meet you, he said, offering his hand in friendship, which the young teen accepted. Nice grip, a fighter, he commented. Yours as well, and yes, I am a fighter. Comes with being the daughter of the god of war, Clarice said with a smirk, though it hid the fact that she was a bit nervous and weary of the blonde after witnessing him transforming and decimating the Minotaur. Naruto's appearance, to be honest, only made him look attractive in her opinion. Moxie shook her hand as well, and the daughter of war knew her fellow brunette was a fighter, like Naruto, and Clarice respected that. Care for a spar tomorrow, she challenged. The nicknamed Blood Queen smirked. Sure, she accepted. Naruto had a knowing smirk. Looks like the two of them are getting along nicely, he thought. Clarice decided to join the little tour group and the three girls started chatting with each other. Scratch that, it seems all three of them are getting along nicely. Cabin 6, or Athena's cabin, was a gray building with an owl carved over the doorway with plain white curtains. Hello Annabeth. Naruto greeted his fellow blonde before asking, how's Percy? He's asleep now and your clone stayed behind, apparently to monitor his condition, the honey blonde teen informed. Naruto saw the look in her eyes and mentally sighed. You have questions for me, huh? Annabeth simply nodded as she stared at the blonde's 9 tails, whisker marks, and fox ears that made her fellow blonde look like a large plushie. Well, save them for tomorrow. I'm a bit tired and after the tour I'll head to bed. Is that acceptable? Naruto asked. Annabeth was still busy looking at those tails of his, but managed to hear his words. Sure, this just gives me more time to think up questions. Behind the two blondes, the three tour guides and Naruto's partner rolled their eyes. Moxie rolled her eyes because the look on Annabeth's face was the same look Naruto would have if he had some questions or was thinking of something. You know, aside from the whisker marks and the angular jaw, the two of you almost look alike, just like brother and sister, Moxie commented, knowing full well her partner and secret love interest, which she plans to rectify soon, dream was to have a large family. The two blondes blinked once and registered the brunette's words. Well, I am related to everyone in camp, so yeah, I'm kind of the older brother or something, the blonde said. Wait. Naruto, how old are you? Wow, princess, forward much, Claris teased. Already trying to claim the strong blonde all to yourself, huh, Selena added, smirking. The blush on the honey blonde teen's face would put a tomato to shame. My, I never knew she was the bold type, Fufu Moxie said, further adding the level of embarrassment and flustered expression on the daughter of Athena. I never knew you were that kind of person, Annabeth. Grover said, throwing his own words into the mix. Despite his tired self, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle and decided to spare his fellow blonde. Now. No teasing her, he stated calmly. And Annabeth, I'm 18, okay? Annabeth nodded, finally getting her blush under control, and glared at the four who teased her before huffing in annoyance. But then she smiled. So that makes you like my uncle or big brother? Well, in terms of relation, you would be my aunt, but that seems strange, so instead I and Moxie can be like your older siblings. He said with an honest smile, which Moxie rarely saw. Annabeth gained a small smile at that and nodded. Okay, good. Let's continue with the tour, want to join in? Naruto offered, which she accepted. Inside his mindscape, Elysium smiled at seeing her master's more gentle side surfacing and hoped to see more of it. I hope you can find the happiness you always wanted, Naruto-kun, she thought. The summit would seem strange how readily Naruto accepted them as family, though some people would be right. The thing is though, none of them have lived a life of loneliness, a life where everyone shuns you or turns you away. So his less than stellar life was the reason for his optimism, but it is not to say he didn't view Lilith or her girls as his family. He loved each one of them like his own actual family, and it only fueled his desire to find his actual family. So you can only imagine the emotions he felt when Chiron explained about the camp and its residents, that there could be a chance that he has actual, albeit half, siblings. A sense of hope that he thought died long before and the dream he had long forgotten suddenly resurfaced and filled him once more. The next cabin may look normal or ordinary at first glance, and the two new campers really thought it was, but Annabeth explained that when hit by sunlight, cabin 7, or Apollo's cabin, would look like it was made of solid gold and gleam so much that it is difficult to look at. Yup, just like the sun. Annoying because of its brightness, the blonde thought. Moxie made no comment and simply shrugged, not really caring enough to do so, verbally or mentally. The next cabin made Naruto frown a little. With his ability to sense negative emotion, he could feel the lingering anger, sadness, and betrayal within cabin 8, also known as Artemis's cabin. Who uses this cabin? The Jinchuriki asked. Well, the hunters use this cabin since Lady Artemis's cabin is more honorary, but seeing as you are her legacy as well, it's possible you can stay. Though I wouldn't try it considering Lady Artemis's dislike of males, Annabeth answered. The daughters of Athena explained everything she knew about the hunters and their history, as far as she knew, that is. Moxie scoffed about the hunters' thoughts on males. I think they are biased. Sure, there are dishonest and despicable males out there, but it does not mean all males are like that. The brunette stated and pointed at Naruto, who blinked. Take this knucklehead for example. The two of us sleep together naked every single day, and not once did he ever take advantage of that or ever make a move without my okay. Moxie said with a factual tone. Which is true, Naruto would never take advantage of any woman, enemy or not. He would just leave them flustered enough as a distraction to knock them out. Even after Lilith gave him the birds and the bees talk, which is one of the most dreaded experiences of his young life, followed by her lesson on seduction and pleasure. How to resist and how to seduce, the pleasure points in the human body, specifically on women, and the reason why it is important for him to learn the topic. The first reason was so he could resist being seduced into being captured. Almost all information gathering or assassination involved seducing your target into lowering their guard. The majority of those targets were males. Second, so he could turn it around on his would-be seductor so he could escape. Third, so he could satisfy his girlfriends or wife, Bess. That particular lesson was taken out by the foolish civilian council of Konoha, but it was taught by those who knew the subject pretty well. It's still an important kunoichi tool, to use their feminine charm to lure their target into a false sense of security, causing them to drop their guard. Make no mistake, they still have their pride as women, but a mission is mission. They knew the risk and the things they would have to do once they became ninja. The art of seduction was taught to newly instated kunoichi by either their female jonin sensei or someone else who could teach it. Though not many could perform seduction as most, if not all, men had one taste, curvaceous and bodacious women. Unlike the female gender who, and this supported by research conducted by both parties, had more particular tastes and kinks than men. As the male gender is more direct and with simple tastes in bed, though some did have certain kink as it was more of the vain and outgoing types. "Oh, so are the two of you a couple?" Selena asked, her mother's personality surfacing like hot lava. Moxie grinned saucily. "Well, we've been partners for a long time, and not in the sense you think of." She explained about their relationship and their job, which Clarice nodded in approval. "But we do have sex after every mission, so you could say we are sex friends or funk buddies, though I will change that soon," she thought on the last part, which her sister somehow caught on too since Selena gave her a wink. It seems the daughters of Aphrodite could tell what the other is thinking about. Naruto still had a frown on his face. If they don't quell the hatred they have, someone could easily use it to their advantage, among other things, he thought. One of the many things that could easily bring down an enemy or an empire was hatred. It was by far the easiest emotion, next to love, to manipulate. A proper and competent strategist worth their salt could use this to their advantage to take down the hunters. It was a tactic that, at one point, the blonde used. A prime example was on his former teammate Sasuke, when the two clashed at the Valley of the End. Naruto knew the black-haired Uchiha's hatred for him as he began to slowly remove his mask of ignorance. Sasuke began to see that he was being surpassed by the class clown or by a no-name commoner. Jealousy turned to resentment, and resentment turned into hatred. This fact allowed Naruto to dictate the course of their fight and easily topple the Uchiha. Since he is related to the goddess of the hunt, by extension the hunters are his family, and as in Uzumaki, he would protect his family above all else, including his own life. Which to say this is one of his fatal flaws, I'll have to find a way to mend their hearts so they can let go of their hate, cause I will not allow anyone to take advantage of any of my family members. He promised himself. The question is, how will he do that? How will he accomplish that if he didn't even know where they are? Wait, Annabeth, do the hunters visit? Said girl nodded. Yes, since we hold somewhat of a traditional camp versus hunters competition, she said. Naruto detected a bit of animosity. I see, is the camp doing well? He asked slowly. He got a quick shake of the head indicating a no. By how much? He asked. 50, the three campers and the one satyr said in unison. I see, he said and pondered. We'll be fixing that. He stated. What, you'll take all of the hunters by yourself? Clarice asked, though she was still awed by how he took down the Minotaur. No. But I won't say anything till I have a talk with Chiron, which I will do after this tour and before I head to bed, he said, his previous exhaustion gone, replaced with curiosity on just how and why the camp is losing, though he had a sinking feeling. I will confirm it with Chiron, he mentally concluded. Inside his mindscape, Inferno had a vicious smirk on his face. I see Master's cunning and devious mind is active again. Those campers are in for one hell of a time, he thought, mentally laughing like a madman on drugs. Moxie saw the cogs inside Naruto's head started spinning, and it could only mean one thing. Oh boy, I pity them if whatever Naruto is thinking of comes to pass. The last time she saw that look, well, let's just say bodies started piling up and blood flowed down the streets like a river. Yeah, gruesome indeed, but their client wanted to send a message to those human traffickers and illegal traders. So Naruto located the most dangerous group and killed them all in one night, leaving their bodies for all to see. Oh, made me remember how horny he got me after that fufu. Moxie, for intents and purposes, is a sadist who loved the screams of her enemies and blood splattered around, something that a lot of people would resent her for. Not Naruto though. He accepted her for who she is, faults and all. So both of you are like mercenaries for hire, Annabeth said in astonishment, since by Naruto's explanation of the contract missions was the same as quests. Naruto nodded, yeah, but the difference is that we work under contract, not by contract, he stated before continuing. The missions we usually accept are A rank to S rank missions, and the people who hire us are, well, the government. Sorry, can't get into too many details. But why are you a student then? She asked in confusion. Well, it's my cover, simple as that, he said. The campers and Satyr nodded in understanding. After not much longer, they arrived at the next cabin. Cabin 9 is Hephaestus's cabin, and, to Naruto, it looked like a smith's shop, with brick and smokestacks like any other forges and lots of gears around the entrance. Naruto, are you thinking? Moxie trailed off and Naruto nodded, both having the same idea. Naruto greeted two teens. The first was a male African American with a slight scowl on his face, muscular like those ball players, and a working man's hands. The teen's name was Charles Beckendorf, or Charlie as he preferred to be called. The second was a female teen with cocoa brown skin, also had a firm grip, probably from forging, black hair that was tied up with a red bandana. The young teen's name was Nissa. She was currently eyeing Naruto, with said blonde being completely oblivious. He chatted with the two of them, getting quickly acquainted with Charlie and Nissa. Both found Naruto easy to get along with as he projected this kind and calming aura around him. "Here, this is a bow I personally made in the arrows, or what I managed to save." Both children of the Smith god nodded in approval at the craftsmanship and work Naruto had done to make such weapons. "And these are the only bullets specifically made for Moxie's weapons." Naruto showed the bullets he made and the Chiramai. "These are impressive weapons," Charlie complimented with Nissa nodding in agreement. "I like the overall appearance and uniqueness of the gun." "Well, Moxie prefers guns over my ways, but don't think she knows how to handle all kinds of weaponry," Naruto said. Moxie nodded, affirming the blonde's words. "So, do you have the tools to make these weapons?" Charlie asked, looking over the blueprints of some of the weapons Naruto drew up. The blonde nodded. "I do, and I would appreciate the help." "Sure, Blondie, and besides, I'm interested in seeing how good you are with your hands," Nissa said with a subtle innuendo. Not discouraged by Naruto's different appearance since there wasn't much change and, to be honest, it only enhanced that feral look he had, which she found to be sexy. Moxie sighed and whispered something to the dark-haired girls. "Seriously?" And Moxie simply nodded. "What did you tell her?" Naruto asked curiously. Moxie smiled and said, "Sorry Naruto, but it's just between us girls." Naruto simply nodded, saving himself the headache, and moved on to the next cabin, which was Moxie's soon-to-be new home. Cabin 10, Aphrodite's cabin, was a wooden building with a blue-painted roof, pillars, checkerboard deck with wooden steps and light gray walls. Naruto did not need his enhanced sense of smell to know the place was heavily perfumed. Moxie, I won't be staying here. My sense of smell is too strong, and the perfume is making me dizzy," Naruto said in the kindest way possible. It was too much perfume. Not even Lilith's main bordello was this heavily perfumed. The fluffed-out door opened, revealing the inside was like a life-size dollhouse with pink walls and white window trim. The lace curtains were pastel blue and green, which matched the sheets and feather comforters on all the beds. With his keen eye, Naruto could see the row of bunk beds were separated between boys and girls by a curtain. The cabin looked clean, but Naruto easily spotted chocolate wrappers, letters, and other things under each bed. "Yeah, I'm staying in another cabin. I'll even risk staying at the goddess of the hunt's cabin," he said with a shudder at the amount of pink. "Don't knock it till you try it, handsome," said a tall Asian girl with dark hair styled in ringlets and brown eyes. Moxie narrowed her eye at the look the Asian girl was sending Naruto. "Oh hell no bitch, you won't get to wrap your fingers around my man," the brunette thought, and to add more ire, the Asian girl walked up to her Naruto and wrapped her slim arms around his neck. "The name's Drew Tanaka, what's yours, handsome?" the Asian teen asked, rubbing her body against the blonde. She found the blonde quite attractive, and his whisker marks made him even cuter in her eyes. Moxie was about to step in, but stopped herself as she saw Naruto's sudden expression change. "Drew." Yup, that was his cold tone which caused the other to straighten up and shiver. Such a display in public is unacceptable, as well as any other illicit behaviors. "So will you kindly let go," he stated slowly as a miasmic dark aura surrounded him, and 9 demonic masks appeared behind the blonde, making the Asian teen shriek in terror and quickly nod in fright. Naruto had his disarming smile on his face. "Good, you know how to follow, meaning we can fix that attitude of yours," he said, as he had already guessed what kind of person Drew and what kind of personality she had. He turned towards his younger siblings as he viewed them. My. All of you look so slim and a bit skinny. Or rather me and Moxie, will be rectifying that soon. Very soon," he stated, sending chills down their spines, with the exceptions of Moxie, Selena, and Claris, as the three of them were blushing and turned on by display of dominance by the blonde Cricky. Annabeth, she was just curious as to how the miasma and masks appeared, since the blonde was not manipulating the mist. Grover noticed the look on Naruto's face, the same look that he gave anyone who violated the rules, and turned away. "Naruto, you go on ahead and finish with the tour. I'll stay behind and assess each and every one of my siblings," Moxie said with a disarming and sadistic smile of her own. "Selena, stay behind would you kindly?" said girl, nodded in fear of her elder sister's look. Naruto nodded and his dark aura vanished. "Very well." He turned towards his supposed tour guides. "Shall we continue?" he asked, acting like nothing happened. They followed behind the blonde with both Claris and Annabeth asking him questions. "Now my little siblings, let your older sister assess all of you," she said while dragging Drew, who tried to escape, inside. "Don't worry, I'll be gentle, Fufu." They paled at Moxie's tone of voice. Naruto sighed as he saw the gleam in his fellow blonde's eyes. "Fine, you can pet one of my tails." Annabeth beamed and quickly rubbed one of Naruto's 9 tails, causing the blonde to purr, which he tried and failed to suppress. This made them laugh. "Haha, the big strong blonde, you're more of an oversized plushie," Claris teased and joined in on petting the blonde. said Plushie simply grumbled incoherent words and his pout, much to Naruto's dismay, made him look even cuter, something a man like him could not accept. He was handsome, not cute, thank you very much, but he couldn't say it. This attracted the attention of more campers, more of the younger and curious ones. Some of the younger girls pleaded with him to allow them to pet the tails with the infamous puppy dog-eyed jutsu. Naruto sighed in defeat and nodded. Why? He screamed mentally to the heavens. Grover was chuckling at his friend's dismay and snickered as he became a living plush toy for the female gender's amusement, though he was slightly jealous of the attention his friend received, as were every male within the vicinity. Can we please finish the tour? Asked an irritated Naruto as he tried his best not to purr, still failing miserably. Face it, Koi, you've become these girls' plushie, Kurumi teased. Inferno snickered at the sight of his master's current state. Elysium did find the scene cute. Well, I think it's nice that Naruto-sama is bonding with his family. The blonde sentient spirit said. Oh yeah, he is, Kurumi said offhandedly. He better not let his guard down or grow soft. She stated loud enough for the blonde to hear. I won't, and I can sense their emotions, so it won't be any sort of trouble, Naruto responded. He could easily detect if any of them had any sort of ill intent with his ability to sense negative emotions, such as hatred and anger. The next cabin was a bit old and worn down. A little cleaning and fixing up should change that, Naruto thought after seeing cabin 11, otherwise known as Herm's cabin. Naruto was greeted by a sandy blonde teen with blue eyes, athletic, muscular build, and this sneaky look on his face, as well as a deep pale scar that ran from the bottom of his eye down to his chin. The camper's name, Luke Castellan, son of Hermes, he said. Naruto nodded. I'm sure enough you know who I am, he said, trying not to sound snobbish. His instincts were telling him to keep his guard up around the son of Hermes. Luke nodded. Yeah, it's kind of hard not to know the guy who turns out to be the legacy to all 14 major Olympians, as well as the son of a primordial goddess. That and how you took down Pasiphae's son. He shuddered a bit, recalling the gruesome visions of death brought by his fellow blonde's killing intent. I notice how overcrowded the cabin is. Why is that? Naruto asked while assessing how much of a threat Luke is and how he would have to kill the blonde if he ever becomes a threat. I'll kill silently and make it look like an accident, he thought. The cogs in his mind started turning. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all undetermined and unclaimed kids stay here until such time that they are claimed, Luke explained. So you welcome all newcomers, all visitors, naturally because Hermes is the god of travelers. Naruto deduced and Luke nodded, confirming his words. I'm guessing the claiming takes time, a lot of time from what I'm seeing, he said, seeing how cramped the cabin looks. Luke once again nodded. Yeah, it takes a while, he said. Naruto's sweat dropped. He guessed that they would have to prove themselves. The blonde realized the irony since, at one point in time, he had wanted the villagers to acknowledge him, not as a monster but as a person. But now he could care less what they think of him. I see, Naruto sighed. Can the cabin be renovated, expanded, or even fixed, he asked. You'll have to ask Chiron about that, Luke said. Naruto nodded. I will, and nice meeting you, Luke, he said before heading to the last and certainly not the least, cabin 12, Dionysus's cabin. The roof and walls were lined with grapevines and overall looked decent with 2 occupants, Castor and Pollux. Naruto found the 2 to be quite decent and friendly, discussing about certain vineyards and drinks. It seems that this is the end of our tour. I hope you enjoyed seeing our wonderful establishment, Claris joked a bit, surprising both Grover and Annabeth. It would seem so. Naruto was cut off by a small earthquake and something rising up from the ground. His eyes widened as a new cabin appeared from the ground. This also alerted all the other campers, including Chiron. The 3,764 square foot cabin was rustic in design, with a mixture of large log-shaped columns, galaxite stone, which seems to shimmer like the night stars, and vertical siding. On the front door was the symbol of Nyx and had the number 0 on it. Well, that solves my cabin problem, he said. Wow, Naruto, your cabin looks like one of those expensive log cabins I read about in that magazine that one time, Moxie said. Naruto turned towards his partner. You're done assessing your siblings, I take it. Moxie nodded. Yeah, basically. They need work on their stamina and strength, she said. I'm also making a diet plan for each of them. Oh? He inquired. All of them are too skinny and eat too many sweets, not enough meat and protein, she said. Naruto nodded and saw Chiron amongst the crowd. He changed his expression to a more cold and serious one. Chiron, he called out slowly. Yes. I need to discuss something of importance with you, and no, this cannot wait until tomorrow, Naruto said in a serious tone. Seeing the seriousness in the blonde's expression, the trainer of heroes nodded. All campers please return to your proper cabins, he ordered. Naruto could see the curious looks. Guys, you can visit my cabin tomorrow, for now, rest. They nodded to his request. Once everyone left, Chiron explained that both he and Moxie would need permission to enter his cabin because of circumstances. The inside of Naruto's cabin was stocked with expensive furniture, such as a marble table, a black silk couch, and a Sony 50-inch flat-screen HD television mounted on the wall with surround sound speakers. But the one thing that attracted Naruto's attention was a portrait of his two mothers. Nyx, who was in her Mina form, was a woman with shoulder-length blonde hair, D-cup breast, peach-white skin, bright blue eyes, and a slender but curvaceous body. And Kushina Uzumaki, a woman with long crimson-red hair, vibrant purple eyes, E-cup breast, and a voluptuous yet feminine build. Both were in a loving embrace as their hands were around Kushina's pregnant belly. "Moms," he thought with a slight tear in his eyes. "So these are your parents? They look beautiful," Moxie commented, holding Naruto's hands in comfort as she could read the blonde's emotion. Naruto nodded and wiped the single tear away. "Yes, they are." He quickly recomposed himself. "Let's talk in the dining room," he said. The dining table was a long wooden oak table that was large enough to seat 20 people. "Now, let's discuss about the camp and everything concerning it," Naruto stated. Chiron nodded and knew the discussion would be long. "So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.